down card. Tarmogoyf, great at blocking. He's still swords, GT, and other swords, Sword of Fire and Ice. So for those of you just joining us, I'm Gavin Verhey. I'm here with Adrian Sullivan. We're going into round 7 of 9 of the Star City Games Open Series here in Atlanta, Georgia. On your left, John Winters got second in standard portion today at X1, fighting for his life in this tournament. He is playing a Goblin deck. Very typical Goblins. He's opted for the green version of Goblins with Tin Street Hooligan. He does not have black for Perish, as some of the other Goblins decks do, and that lack of black is going to hurt him in this matchup against Bant. Caleb Durward playing Bant. He's playing, he doesn't have natural orders. I have to be careful how I say that. If I say no natural order, that's kind of deceiving.
Right.
But he is not playing natural order. He's got Green Sun Zenith, Swords of Plowshares, GT, Sword of Fire and Ice, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Force of Will, Brainstorm, and Ponder, Noble Hierarch, Neither Reliquary, Sower of Temptation, Pride Mage, Click, Tarmogoyf, Rox Warmonk, and Stoneforge Mystic. And we were talking about earlier about how Bant is like the most nebulous name in all of Magic. You say something as a Bant deck, really anything could be in that deck. And so there's kind of an idea of what we're going to be seeing here from Caleb Durward.
I think that your analysis about how this matchup works, I think it's probably right. I think that John Winters is going to be the one that we're going to see emerge as the likely upper hand with this one.
Yeah, so I think Winters has the advantage, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised to see Durward played out. If on Twitter you guys have played this matchup, something like it before, let us know.
Let us know. I'd be curious to hear. And you know, one of the things to remember, when we say advantage, that doesn't mean it's a lock. You know, if I give you a die and say, if I roll a 5 or a 6, you know, I'm going to give you $1. Now, otherwise, you give me $1. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be the one coming, you know, going to be the loser there.
Right, and here are standings that were just handed us. So at the top of the standings, no surprise, Alex Hatfield. Wow, Alex and Jesse Hatfield both undefeated in this tournament. Mike Lesh undefeated in games in this tournament also. And then Marsh Usari, a player who I believe made top 8 of Nationals one year.
Yes, he made top 8 of Nationals the year that Charles Gindy did, I believe.
Did he also top 8 a Pro Tour at some point?
I believe he did.
I think he did, yes. Lewis Laskin hanging in there at X1 with his black-white homebrew deck. Pat Cox with Zoo. John Winters, who we have on the screen right here. Let's see, who else is fighting for it? David McDarby, Jace himself, fighting for another top 8. JT Hendricks, Oren Beasley, Todd Anderson, Caleb Durward, who's on the screen right now. Those are all players fighting for it.
Yeah, Marsh Usari was the alternate for the U.S. national team in the year that Michael Jacob won it.
So Jacob, Sandblack, and Shion were the main team, then Usari was the alternate on it.
I believe he might have made top 8 of 2 U.S. nationals, actually.
Really? Nice. Very nice. And looks like Raz Leox on Twitter says that Goblins wins all the time. It's like a 90% matchup. We'll see how this ends up. It really feels like Goblins is advantaged here, but the Bant list for those guys who missed it is 4 Hierarch, 3 Knight of the Reliquary, 2 Sower, 2 Pride Mage, 3 Vendelian Click, 2 Tarmogoyf, 1 Rox Warmonk, 2 Stoneforge Mystic, 3 Green Sun Zenith, 4 Swords to Plowshares, 1 GT, 1 Sword of Fire and Ice, 1 Jace the Mind Sculptor, 4 Force of Will, 4 Brainstorm, and 1 Ponder.
Okay. Here we go. More shuffling. Yeah, I think that when you talk about a deck like this, right? Why is Bant so significantly different than when you're looking at the matchup with a Zoo deck? That creature size thing is a huge part of it, and plus, Zoo being able to be active rather than reactive. A Force of Will, if it's not there for an Aether Vial, when that Aether Vial comes, when that Force of Will comes around later, that Force of Will feels pretty weak. You know, it feels pretty weak. And where the Zoo deck can have a lot more creature kill spells, here we only have 4 Swords to Plowshares. Less good at the controlling side of things. The creatures are smaller, less good at the beatdown side of things. I think we have a direct reversal of the situation that Goblins had when John Winters was playing against the really, really awesome looking Zoo deck that we saw before. Get a little bit more shuffling going on so we can get this match underway. Caleb looks really calm here, giving his opponent a cut. Okay, and let's see what we get here with this hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it looks like he's keeping that one. Opens with a Wooded Foothills, getting a Goblin Lackey. Force of Will is in Caleb's hand here to be able to take care of that Lackey. Now, one of the things that Caleb has that the Zoo deck doesn't have is he does have access to the potential of having an equipment package getting online and a Sword of Fire and Ice. It's going to need a 10th Street Hooligan to take care of it. So as long as he hasn't lost the game, there can be moments for him to take over the game with cards like Sword of Fire and Ice. Ponder from Caleb. No shuffle. He likes what he sees on top. John, meanwhile, has been shuffling his own deck after searching for that Taiga, and Caleb finishes off that shuffle, giving John his second turn. I think I see him draw a mountain there. Rishadan Port. During upkeep, he taps Caleb's Tundra. And there we get a fetch land from Caleb Durward. Windswept Heath. John Winters here. I believe I saw a mountain in his hand. There it is. Full art mountain. And he drops a Goblin Warchief into play, which resolves, comes in for 2. Goblin Warchief is one of the most important cards for the Goblin deck, basically because of the quasi-time walk-like ability that it gives to all of the creatures and really increases the danger factor that they can do. And plus, that mana accelerating ability, it almost is like you've got, in the form of Goblin Warchief, a Llanowar Elf plus a haste for all of your things. Almost so Llanowar Elf Time Walk. Obviously not though powerful as that combination, but in a sense it plays out in that way for people. Caleb untaps, full access to his mana now. He's got a Tropical Island in his hand, he's got a Plains in his hand, he's got options when it comes to his mana. He passes the turn after upkeep Vendilion Click, or sorry, draw phase Vendilion Click, showing a Mogg War Marshal. It looks like a Ringleader, a Goblin Matron, and a Siege Gang Commander. With only 3 mana out, because of that Chief, the Ringleader can actually get cast. On the other hand, if he doesn't take the Matron can just immediately go get Matron Pile Driver and be very powerful on the other side of the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to take the Ringleader there, but leaving with the other cards is...
Right.
It always kind of sucks when you Vendilion Click them or Thoughtseize them or anything, and it's like, oh, look at all those good cards. Yeah. So, Caleb stroking his beard, looking down at the board state in front of him. And, okay, we've got Goblin Matron from John Winters, only costing 1 thanks to, or 2 because of the War Chief. And now he keeps his Taiga up to potentially play another Goblin this turn.
Now, the War Chief is essentially, as was put earlier in the day, it's like the Goblin Factor Fiction.
Or the Ringleader, rather, yeah.
The Ringleader, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad. Yes, I meant to say
yeah,
the Ringleader.
we were talking about how a lot of cards in Goblins are pseudo-spells, and you know, you have your Matron, which is a tutor effect. You have Mogg War Marshal, clogs up the ground. You have 10th Street Hooligan, which is Shatter. And here we have a Goblin Ringleader, which is kind of like Goblin Factor Fiction. Goblin, draw 3, draw 4. Caleb casts Brainstorm, reloading on cards, trying to find a way to stem the Goblin onslaught. And let's see here. What do you put back? I think he's got Tarmogoyf, Green Sun Zenith, Knight of the Reliquary.
And he needs to establish a board presence really quickly. Knight of the Reliquary, while a great card, it's going to be almost the entire turn for Caleb Durward.
Yeah, and if John has an incinerator or something to deal with it could be a big problem. So he has a land, so he's got that Plains. Ice Age Plains, I believe. And here's Stoneforge Mystic, so shuffle away. See a standard interaction there.
Right, right.
Shuffles the library to put those Brainstorm cards away. And gets a GTA. Now that is a breaker in this matchup. You can put that on Vidalian Click next turn, and if the click isn't dealt with, that'll probably be able to swing the game in Caleb's favor. John has a port, so he could potentially port down one of Caleb's lands, but because of Stoneforge Mystic, as long as it's still alive, he can pay 2 and put the GTA into play. Oh, and there's Noble Hierarch anyway to pay for it.
Well, one of the things to remember, though, is that it could actually get into play and still be slightly too slow based on, just the potential explosive power of the War Chief with other cards that happen here.
Especially knowing that there's a CGN Commander in John Winter's hand. So he has CGN Commander and Ringleader. Both of those are going to be big problems for Caleb. And he's already got a bunch of damage coming in on him. Okay, Vidalian Click serves in for 3. No blocking happening there. And John just lets the War Marshal die, giving him a token.
Echo is for chumps, as they always used to say. Now, did not look to me like he drew a land. I think he's still on that 3 mana. So he knows that Jit is going to present a real threat.
Yeah, and okay, there's the
Chieftain. A Chieftain.
That guy is really good.
He does a lot of work.
Yeah, but still, if Caleb's able to connect with GTA next turn, that'll really can kill off War Chief, and that can really delay.
No, it's going to have to kill the Chieftain.
Or sure.
Yeah, it's going to have to.
Sure, kills the Chieftain. Still, killing the Chieftain is still pretty powerful.
Right. Maintaining that War Chief in play, though, that's just great news for John Winters. One more turn of the War Chief is a big deal.
Now, let's see. Caleb has that Green Sun Zenith. But he doesn't have any really pinpoint.
2 life. Wow. I think that sounds about right, though.
Man. Yeah, they dropped Caleb down super low. And now Caleb has to decide what his play is here. Is GTA going to get the job done?
I think it's not even decided yet with this. I mean, the board presence that John Winters has is so powerful that even a GTA might not be enough. It's going to take most of Caleb's turn for that GTA to actually get on, a creature and be used. And taking up most of his turn, and by most of his turn, that's 4 of his 5 available mana, he's still at 2 life. He's still at 2 life, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures in play, a Ringleader in John Winters' hand.
Yeah, I think Winters is definitely in the dominating position here. Gonna draw 3 cards. I think Winters is definitely in a dominating position. Question is, what can Caleb do? So there's a Swords there. That'll help Caleb out a ton. Did he draw the land? If he drew a land, he can put GTA on his guy and sword something, but I don't think I see a land there.
Well, he still has the Hierarch,
but
right?
He had to tap 1 to Brainstorm.
The Brainstorm, yeah. My bad. Thank you.
So by tapping 1 to Brainstorm, he had to find a land so we could go equip GTA and still swords a guy.
I think there's a Plains in his hand, maybe, right? Besides that Green Sun Zenith? Is that what that is?
Is that a Plains? I'm pretty sure that's a GTA.
Oh, it's a GTA. That's a GTA.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a GTA.
The color got me tricked with his... Yeah, he doesn't quite have it there.
Yeah, if he'd drawn a land there, might have been okay, but without it, I think he could play the Tarmogoyf for a blocker, path one of the creatures attacking him. Certainly not going to be easy. I mean, the other issue is John Winters has inevitability at this point because he has CGN Commander sitting in his hand, and if it comes down, all he has to do is pay 2, and Caleb Durward is killed. Now, GTA can gain him some life, get him out of that range, but it's going to take him some time to be at a point where we can start gaining life with that GTA.
I'll get him in 3 weeks.
Okay. He could be contemplating casting the Green Sun Zenith for 1, getting out a Dryad Arbor, and leaving open mana for that path as well.
I mean, he has
He's got the Tarmogoyf he's going to put down first, yes, but after that, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I could totally see, I could see tapping that Noble Hierarch to get Arbor. I like that play.
Yep. I think there is this Green Sun Zenith for 0.
Yep, so here comes Dryad Arbor, a little blocker, and maybe a mana source. Plus, most importantly for Caleb, it shuffles his deck, getting rid of the cards on top. So he resets his library, once again putting all those shuffle effects to good use with cards like Brainstorm. And let's see what we have going on here for John Winters. So if you're John Winters, you have 3 mana available here. Do you think you go for Ringleader and consider, and yeah, just try and get in all the goblins you can, or do you try and go for a different route here?
You know, it's we're gonna have to see what happens. I think the game is so close to turning in Caleb's favor. John Winters has only 1 card that he can use for reach that's of any real immediate value. Actually, 2 cards, my bad. He's got the Goblin Pile Driver, I'm going to restate, Goblin Sharpshooter and Siege Gang Commander to get that last 2 points of damage in. So he might just want to wait and try to get one of those going.
He goes for Ringleader. Is that a whiff?
That looked like a whiff.
Wow. John Winters has not done very well with those Ringleaders under camera so far. He's got 1 Goblin off 2 total Ringleaders. Camera is cursing people left and right today. And rough for John Winters. He needed those Goblins, and he needed them badly. So, I mean, he has an extra guy to serve in with. He has 4 creatures, but I don't feel like he really feels he's safe attacking here. The Tarmogoyf will eat something up, the Click will trade with something. The Dryad Arbor and the Mystic will both die in his head, but he knows if Caleb has a Swords to Plowshares, it messes up his combat math entirely and just ends up with his team getting destroyed.
Yeah, his team would just fall to pieces if Swords to Plowshares comes into play here. Now look at these. Both thinking. John looking at Caleb's face, trying to get a read. Look at that, right to the face. He's not looking at the board. Caleb, what do you got? What are you going to do? Make a decision.
Yeah. Not going to get a read. And John's forced to make a play. Both players staring at the board now, trying to not give anything away. Okay, here we go.
All in.
John is like, I think I can do this. So I win this game. To win this game, I think I can win if I attack with everybody. And there's the swords that John Winters didn't want to see.
Number 3 have been posted. Please find your seats. Once again, 2 of the Giant players. Pairings for round number 3 have been posted. Please find your seats.
And now John Winters' team is just going to get annihilated. Click is going to trade with that Ringleader. Tarmogoyf is going to eat that War Chief, and the 2 other creatures are going to block that Matron. And oh man, and the board just got cleared.
Ouch.
Yeah, and now I think Caleb's got this. He's going to put GTA on his guy, and I think that'll be it.
Yeah, there's not much that John can do to come back into that.
He can gain life to get out of range of the CGA commander. That's, you know, John needs 2 more lands to cast. Counting up Tarmogoyf right now.
1 life.
And 1 life is
so close.
1 life is all you need. And here comes GTA and Tarmogoyf, crashes in. And those 2 counters on GTA are going to change the game radically.
Absolutely.
Let's see what he chooses to do. It's possible he might choose to gain some life at sorcery speed, but I think he feels he's safe and can just pass. Goblins doesn't have any burn that you don't see coming. So,
you know, it's really, really rare these days. It's been a long time since I've seen that happen.
There was a time where people had lightning bolts in their goblins deck, but that time is long past. People know you have to hit on Ringleader. People know you just want to violin goblins all the time.
You know, sometimes you would see rarely the Tarfire.
Sure.
That's pretty rare. That's pretty rare.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when some legacy goblins decks used to run Bogart Ante. Don't see that anymore either.
A lot of times these card choices just get forced out by the necessities of, like, what is good. You're forced to make certain choices, and you're like, well, this just doesn't quite add up to what the rest of the decks can do.
Let's see. All right, John Winter's figuring it out. Now he's on the back foot. All right, cycles plays Pile Driver. And that's it. Passes back, and Caleb has got this game on lock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if John Winters draws this 10th Street Hooligan, it's not going to matter.
When you get somebody down to 1 life and you're playing a red deck, you often wonder, was there a spot where I could have gotten in that damage? Now, this is less true when you're not playing a red deck with burn, but it's still something that you always end up running through your head. Where was it? And a lot of the times there was something.
I'm sure John Winters is thinking about this right now, like, where did I make a small mistake? And he probably could have maybe forced through 1 damage if he tried or made a slightly different play. That could be it right here. Now there's a bunch of counters on the G-tape. Pile Driver goes away, ships the sword back over to Stoneforge Mystic. And John Winters packs it in. He knows when it's done. And Bant, which is the deck we thought wasn't going to be favored here, does take the first game in a super close game.
Oh, 1 life.
1 life left for Caleb Durward. Wow.
Now, in the sideboard now, John Winters gets to bring in Pyrokinesis, which is going to be very, very effective in this matchup. And I even think there might be value for him in Sting Scourger and Goblin Tinkerer. Goblin Tinkerer, that can actually break, as well as with the 10th Street Hooligan, that can break the equipment package that he knows Caleb Durward has access to. Whenever you see the Stoneforge Mystic, you're going to expect that there's the possibility of 2, 3 artifacts being out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like the card he's most worried about is Jite. I don't think either of the swords are that big of a deal for Caleb Durward. Obviously, he doesn't want to see them, but Jite is the main problem for him. And I think that 1 10th Street Hooligan is probably sufficient, but I wouldn't be super surprised if we saw the Goblin Tinkerer. I don't think he'll board it in, but he could board it in.
From the sideboard for Caleb, Caleb has some weapons of use here. But they're not necessarily the greatest. I mean, he knows his opponent has Taiga. And Taiga is an indicator that 10th Street Hooligan exists.
Right.
And it's possible he might bring in Submerge as an answer to Goblins. Normally not a card you bring in against Goblins, but that's a forest, and he's got an island, which would make Submerge a free spell.
That actually seems reasonable. I mean, I think he's going to go for the Taiga a reasonable amount of the time, and I think you can probably rely on it working.
Yeah, I mean, you can at least rely on it once.
I mean, the one issue is John Winters knows that Caleb probably has Wasteland in his deck, so he's going to be very judicious about when he searches up that dual land.
Absolutely. But I mean, getting someone with that once, game 2 is the place to perhaps make that play happen. Do you think he brings in Pithing Needle to try to turn off Aether Vials?
I've never been a big fan of that strategy. I feel like if you draw the needle at the wrong time, it just really hinders you. But I could see him trying that. I think this might be one of the matchups they're in the sideboard for. I could see the 1 Trigon Predator in the sideboard coming in to try and deal with that.
Yeah.
Just because it's a body that's always effective.
And you can tutor for it with the Green Sun Zenith that he has in the deck.
Right, definitely.
I don't know that he has a great set of sideboard options in his sideboard for this matchup.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of interesting cards, but I'm not sure what he's going to do exactly. I mean, I can see Submerge coming in, Pithing Needle coming in, Trigon Predator coming in, even Sword of Temptation coming in, and maybe if he was super crazy, even the 3 Mirroring Crusaders in his sideboard, which is kind of a cool card. Now, the thing about Mirroring Crusader is it doesn't have protection from Caleb's colors, which is certainly not optimal. But the first striking 2/2 body can strike down quite a few goblins.
That's true.
Remember back in the day, a couple years ago in Legacy, when people used to play with Tividar's Crusade, when goblins was so rampant?
You know, when I would hear about Tividar's Crusade being played, I wasn't playing enough Legacy because at that time I would occasionally hear something like that, but I wasn't playing enough Legacy to pay attention and think whether or not that was a good play or not.
So, funny note about Caleb's deck list. You look at the lands, and he has 1 forest scratched out, 1 island scratched out, 1 plain scratched out. I'm like, oh, weird, he's not playing any basic lands. Then I get to the bottom of the deck list, and they're all snow-covered. He must have searched through his deck and realized, oh no, all my lands are snow-covered. I got to write this on my deck list correctly. So, or maybe he just, you know, had the sweet option, was like, yeah, I'm going to play snow covered if I could play snow covered.
I mean, it could be an indicator that he's trying to bluff to his opponent that he has snow covered and regular for some reason. I mean, that's not common, but I mean...
I mean, you never know when a Rime Feather Owl is going to come out to beat you. So,
$10 draft number 7.
Just saying.
Back to side events.
$10
draft number 7.
Back in old standard and even extended after that, some people played Snowlands because they looked cooler. Like, you know, they had stacks sitting around, whatever, and they intermixed them. Some of the times there were good reasons, gifts ungiven, and so on. But sometimes people were just like, oh, I'm just going to throw them into my decks. And I remember, like, I was terrified of doing this because I knew that if I did this, I would get paired against like Rime Feather Owl in the first round, and I would lose somehow and just feel terrible. I would like play against some Japanese player playing Rime Feather Owl at the Pro Tour, and I would just get crushed.
You know, even further back in time yet, you would have people that would do that same kind of thing, and then someone would cast an Ice Quake on their land
take 1 damage.
and kill you.
Yeah.
You know, like, that was a real thing that happened.
Take 1 damage. I think one of my favorite snow-covered land stories come from Kyle Bogamies, who made top 8 of States one year with a split of 3 islands, 1 snow-covered island, for no explicable reason. And afterwards, I asked him, Kyle, why did you do this? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why is the 1 island there, 1 snow-covered island? He's like, so he brings up his computer and searches online, looks at deck lists, and pulls up 3 different ones. He's like, I know these 3 people copied my deck list because it's got the 1 snow-covered island in it, so we can tell
awesome.
So we can tell who's taking his decks. Anyway, back to the match. Looks like John Winters has led off with an Arid Mesa. And let's see what his turn 1 play is. Does he have the Lackey? Does he have the Vial? We'll see what he's gotten. Belcher Sucks, not a real name, not his real name, on Twitter, notes that its potential cards that could make it matter: Mouth of Ranum, Tainted Pact, obviously Gifts Ungiven. There are some cards that make snow matter in Legacy, but for Caleb's deck, nothing that can make it relevant. And let's see, there's Aether Vial, down from John Winters. So he does have the turn 1 Vial. That's a pretty dreaded play. Caleb's hand, I see a Tarmogoyf in the front and a Vidalian Click in the back, but I'm not sure about everything in between.
Nick Bell and Jacob Terry, come on down to side events. Your $10 draft.
Let's see.
There's a Windswept Heath that he's going to lay.
Yep.
Cracks it immediately. I think I see a Green Sun Zenith.
Yep, I think we see Dryad Arbor come out to play. So
Yeah,
1 mana
so
Rampant
too.
Growth. Deal. I'll take that. And then next turn we'll have access to 3 mana.
It's a Llanowar Elf, really, right? You're making yourself a little Llanowar Elf.
Yep. Basically what it is. Brian David Marshall chimes in Whiteout. Gotta be careful. You don't want to be white-outed out of the game. A couple cards like that make snow matter. You don't want to get walked on by Zombie Musher. Let's see, there's a Noble Hierarch from Caleb Durward.
Okay. Gives it a go. Aether Vial goes up to 1.
And let's see, so John has some options now. He's clearly thinking about his play. All right, there's Rishon Port. And the Port will be able to lock down that land, which John will definitely do. So, and he has the Vial to bring something in if he has a 1-drop, but I don't think he does. The main 1-drop is Lackey, and I don't see it in his hand. I think it would have already been in the battlefield on the play. All right, so there's the Needle, and Caleb did bring those in. He looks like he's going to shut down Aether Vial. So I think Aether Vial is likely the target. We'll double check with Rashad. What was named?
And Rashad's checking with us.
Rashad's checking. I assume it's Vial. It could have been Rishon Port, I guess, but I can't imagine not naming Aether Vial.
You know, if it is Rishon Port, I don't think Rashad will tell us. He doesn't like having that card get turned off.
Let's, I think there was a joke there and I missed it.
Don't worry, it's not a very good joke.
Does this involve how I said Rashad and Port?
Yes.
Yes.
It is naming Aether Vial.
All right, yep, it's on Vial, so Rashad is safe. And, yep, down comes Dryad Arbor. And, so now Caleb will have access to up to 5 mana next turn if he has a land. So that Rishon and Port not doing so much. And there's a land crack for John Winters. I'm going to go up to 3 mana. Now, John does have 10th Street Hooligan in his deck, and he could potentially have Goblin Tinker in his sideboard, and that Tinker might be all right with that Needle on the other side. We'll see what he's got going on here. Note how he keeps ticking up that Aether Vial, because even if you know, it's needled, you can still tick it up, and then if the needle ever dies, you can start using the vial again. Alright, and there's the dreaded Goblin War Chief for Caleb.
One of the best weapons that John Winters can put down.
We have also fired the next standard winner box. That's standard winner box number 11. If you are in standard winner box 11, please come on down and we will get that event started.
Alright, so here we go. Caleb looks confident with his position. I think he likes where he's at right now in this matchup. Looks like his hand is an Either Reliquary, Force of Will, Double Vendalion Click, Tarmogoyf. Vendalion Click, a card which might not be obvious in the matchup, but I think he kept in.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen. We had several people come by the Star City sales booth earlier looking for the StarCityGames.com sleeves, and we had sold out.
Let's see.
But thanks to the gracious people over the events desk, we now have another supply.
So Caleb considering his options very carefully.
Yep. Here it comes.
Yeah, there's another
Knight of the
Reliquary.
Reliquary.
I think
Looking
that,
like he's a 4/4 right now?
Yep, 4/4. I think Knight is a good call here. Hand served in with the Dryad Arbor. Take 1, says Caleb Durward. And let's see. Goblin Ringleader comes down for John Winters. And that's going to give him some card advantage. But nope, Force of Will from Caleb Durward. Make sure puts an end to that.
The real value of that is just making sure that you get one card at the time that you need not happening. You know, like, we saw the Force of Will really break John Winters' back in Game 1 when it stopped the Goblin Lackey on turn 1. And now look at this. Caleb Durward really has his board developed in a way where John Winters is just struggling to find a way to come back into this game. Stoneforge Mystic going to lock this one out, probably.
I mean, it's going to go Umezawa's GT, and I think this is a pretty rough spot for John Winters. He's got a Incinerator, it looks like he can cycle, but I don't think he's coming back from this one. Caleb not only has board advantage, but he also has GT coming online next turn. And that, GT on top of his library, of course. And that'll be pretty brutal for John Winters. I don't know what he could have. Oh, even worse for John Winters. Caleb searches up Wasteland, wastes down the Taiga, leaving John with only 2 lands, an unactive Aether Vial thanks to Pithing Needle, and that Goblin War Chief.
It's not a good position for John Winters.
No, this is about as bad as it gets for a Goblin player that is War Chief in play.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, Caleb looks pretty confident in this position. Flicking a Vendalion Click End. It was always GT in his hands. And John is trying to figure out how he can get out of this wretched position.
Arching an eyebrow, looking at the hand.
That is not the look of a man.
Yeah.
Who is happy to see what's going on. Caleb Durward stroking his newly cut beard.
A little less mountain man, a little bit more, not sure what I want to call that.
He evolved a little.
Yeah, evolved. Nicely put.
Yeah. Let's see.
Still waiting for John Winters to figure out where he wants to go from here.
Oh, it is a hard choice for him. I mean, yeah, he sends the hand. He's like trying to figure it out, and he's like, there's nothing. So Caleb Durward takes it down, is now 1 round away from potentially drawing, and at the very least 2 rounds away from making top 8. Well on his way. Congratulations to